Hello everybody, my name is Ilya.
My name is Tyler. Together we make up Kovray, a couple that loves to play board games.
Now you may have heard of this game called Cascadia.
You mean this one?
Yeah, it may even have hit your table recently. Or your computer screens if you've been playing Cascadia Digital.
Yeah.
That daily trek is where it's at, I tell you.
But how do we make Cascadia better? Well, we add an expansion to it. And today we're here to teach you about Cascadia Landmarks.
That's right, a how to play video. Now, Cascadia Landmarks is designed by Randy Flynn, it's illustrated by Beth Sobel, and is published by Flat Out Games and Alderac Entertainment Group, who helped sponsor this video.
But with that out of the way, let's give you a quick overview of how Cascadia works and how to integrate landmarks into it.
In Cascadia, your goal is to create the most harmonious ecosystem, and in doing so, score the most points. On your turn, you'll draft a habitat tile and its matched token to place in your ecosystem. When playing the habitat tile, the habitat does not need to match to previously placed tiles, but the wildlife tokens must be placed on the tile with a corresponding wildlife symbol printed on it. Now you'll keep playing and aim to connect matching habitats, as your largest habitat corridor of each type will score you points at the end of the game. You'll also need to place your wildlife strategically, as each scores in their own unique way. For example, in this game, bears want to be in pairs and not touch any other bears. The more pairs of bears you have, the more points you'll score. You'll play until the tiles run out, a total of 20 turns, at which point you'll score for your nature tokens, wildlife, and largest habitat corridors, scoring bonus points if your habitat corridor is the largest of all players. What's great in this game is there's a variety of scoring cards for each wildlife, so each game can look different based on the set of cards you've chosen to play with. And of course, there's a solo mode, a family mode, and scenarios or achievements you can aim for as well.
Now, let's talk about what Cascadia Landmarks adds to the game.
Well, first of all, Cascadia Landmarks adds new habitat tiles. There are 45 habitat tiles and 5 starter habitat tiles you can add to your game of Cascadia. There are new keystone tiles that still feature a single wildlife type, but now have multiple different habitat tiles. All of these tiles can be mixed with the original tiles from Cascadia to provide a greater variety of tiles each time you play. If you continue to play either with or without the expansion, there's no need to separate the tiles once they've been mixed in. The 5 additional starting tiles will add more variety to your Cascadia games. Now with these starting tiles, the habitat tiles, and even more wildlife tokens, you can now play with up to 6 players.
And with the 5 to 6 player game, they've introduced an alternative way to play. Faster play.
To set up, you'll first remove a number of each of the 5 wildlife token types equal to the number of players from the cloth bag. From the habitat tiles you're playing based on your player count, you'll deal 5 random habitat tiles to each player. These will be placed face up to the side of each player's ecosystem. Now in order, you'll place one of each of the 5 wildlife token types besides each of your habitat tiles, creating 5 pairs. This forms a personal supply of habitat and wildlife pairs for each player. Now when playing, in between turns, you'll now have the option to take an additional action by choosing one of the pairs from your personal supply. You may use a nature token to swap any 2 wildlife tokens in your personal supply. However, these tokens may not be swapped with the tokens in the bag. Now in these games, you'll take a maximum of 5 additional turns. This way, you'll only take a total of 15 main turns rather than 20. All in all, by the end of the game, you will have placed 20 habitat tiles and 20 wildlife tokens to your ecosystem.
Cascadia Landmark also comes with new wildlife scoring cards that you can shuffle into the appropriate species deck and choose to make a more varying game.
Let's go through them. Bears. The E card. Here you'll score 3 points for each bear with no other bears next to it, and 1 or more unoccupied adjacent spaces to it, meaning a space with no habitat tiles. F. You'll score 12 points for each bear group. Each group may be 3 or more in size, and they must touch each of the other 4 wildlife types. G. Here you'll score points for pairs of bears with no other bears next to the pair, but at least one of the bears in each pair needs to be on a forest habitat tile. Elk. E. This one scores for elk in the exact semicircular formation. Now the shape may be rotated, and each elk may only be used once for a single group. F. Here you'll score 13 points for each elk in this exact shape. The shape may be rotated, and for any wildlife touching this group, you'll subtract a point. G. Here you'll score points per group of elk in the exact shape, where at least one elk is on a prairie habitat tile. Salmon. For For all these salmon wildlife scoring cards, the runs may not be adjacent to other runs. E. This one scores for each run per salmon in a zigzag shape. F. This one scores for each run per salmon, and you'll score additional points for each bear adjacent to the run. G. Here you'll score for each run per salmon plus 1 point per salmon on a river habitat tile. Hawk. E. This one scores for each pair of non-adjacent hawks with a direct line of sight to only one another. If there's a line of sight to an additional hawk, they do not score. F. This one scores for each hawk that has a direct line of sight to a non-adjacent fox. G. This one scores for each pair of hawks with at least 3 unique habitat types between them. Each hawk may only be counted once in this instance. The fox cards. E. This one scores for each fox that's surrounded by animals of any type. Partially surrounded will still score you points here. F. This one scores for each fox adjacent to exactly 2 different wildlife types. This includes foxes. If the condition is not met, they will not score any points. G. Lastly, this one scores for each fox surrounded by unique habitat types. You'll ignore the tile the fox is on, and habitat types and adjacent habitat tiles that are not touching the edges of the fox's tile do not count. And that's the new wildlife scoring cards.
Finally, let's address the elephant in the room. This game is called Landmarks after all. Let's talk about the landmarks.
You'll follow the typical setup with a few exceptions. After distributing the starter habitat tiles, you provide each player with 1 extra keystone tile to add to their environment before the game starts. You'll find the number of keystone tiles from the subset of tiles you're playing with equal to your player count. Starting with the last player in turn order and going counterclockwise, each player will select 1 of the extra keystone tiles and add them to their ecosystem. You'll then shuffle each of the 5 landmark scoring card decks and flip over a number of cards equal to the number of players. For solo games, you'll flip 2. These cards will create a tableau in the center of the play area along with the landmark tokens of each type. When playing Cascadia, if you add a tile that would make the size of your habitat corridor 5 or greater, you may choose to place a landmark token of the habitat type on the tile you just placed. Now again, the landmark token must be placed on the habitat tile you just placed, and will take up the wildlife space on that tile. You may only have 1 of each landmark tokens, even if you've completed additional corridors of that type, meaning the most landmark tokens you'll have in a game is 5. After placing the landmark token, you'll also select 1 of the landmark scoring cards and place it next to your ecosystem. Let's go over a few of these cards. Some will score per wildlife type on the corresponding habitat, others increase your corridor size, score the amount of corridors you have on a specific type, or just grant you points for the end of the game. This of course also means that there's new score pads. Lastly, Cascadia Landmarks adds new scenarios and achievements for you to discover, whether you're playing solo or with your friends.
And that's Cascadia Landmarks.
So many additions to the world of Cascadia.
There is. It really elevates the gameplay, but my favorite part is that it gives the game a lot more variability.
Each of your games will feel different, which is exciting. Will you get the highest score in all of the possible scenarios?
Exactly. If you found this video helpful, hit that thumbs up button and let us know down in the comments below. And of course, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button.
And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to help you. Go over in the comments there and we'll chat through it and talk Cascadia with you.
Well, Cascadia Landmarks in particular.
And Cascadia. Now for our question of the day, what would you like to see in the world of Cascadia?
Oh, maybe it's a new type of game. Maybe it's another expansion. What would it be around?
Cascadia Marbles.
No. Be fun to do like a zoomed in version where it focuses on like one specific habitat, but then like maybe it's about the focuses more on the critters.
Oh, I thought you meant zoom in as in like you zoom in on the elk and it's the little organisms on its skin and that's the game.
No.
Well, thank you so much for watching and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.